everyone. It's been a while since you've heard from me here, and I want to start by saying thank you for sticking with me through this pause. I took some time to reflect and to really get clear on the direction I wanted this platform to go. So, what I realize is this transition isn't just a moment in time for veterans, it's a journey, it's ongoing. And the conversations we need to have go far beyond just what comes next after service. That's why the podcast has a new name and a new direction: Beyond the Uniform Transition Talks. This is not just a rebrand, it's a refocus. It's about real stories, real strategies, and real conversations that help veterans to navigate every stage of their transition and so that they can thrive. So today, I'm excited to bring you an exclusive interview with someone who embodies that spirit. Today, I have with me Mr. Jason Smith. He's a former Air Force officer who has built a career as a sales-focused business consultant, working with companies like IBM, HP, American Airlines, and so many more. And Jason has seen too many businesses miss the mark because they forget one vital ingredient, which is empathy. And out of that experience is why he created Sales Synergistics. And that's a framework to align sales, marketing, and operations by putting the customer first. So Jason, thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to this conversation. So let's start at the beginning. Every transition begins with taking off the uniform. Can you share what that moment looked like for you and what surprised you the most about stepping into civilian life?
Well, thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate you as a host, and thank you so much to Inspired EDU. I'm transmitting live here from this amazing Black-owned nonprofit that's helping all of these underserved communities, adults and children alike, have access to technology and technology education. And to answer your question, for me, transitioning out of the military was a lot like a car wreck. Very sudden for me. I was medically discharged with
Okay.
my hopes and dreams of being a retired career military officer cut short due to medical discharge. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I did have a good medical exit package with some money in the bank from the military and aspirations of being an entrepreneur. So for me, that sudden jolt of being
Yeah.
let go from the military turned into a year and a half of struggling as an entrepreneur to start my own business before I started my job search. And that led to a long, slow career transition for me of
Mm.
going from suddenly separated former military officer to hadn't started yet, struggling
Yeah.
emerging entrepreneur to job seeker. And I floundered in the woods for quite some time trying to find that identity in the civilian world without the protection of a military community and people to help support me, tell me how to transition until I took a role in Atlanta, Georgia. And
Mhm.
coming back here to my hometown where I was born and raised, I was able to get plugged into the military community with people who were able to put their arms around me and tell me this is exactly how you transition, what you do to find a role, how to translate your skills. And that led to a profitable career in companies like Fiserv, Red Hat, IBM, all
Yeah.
the great companies you named that led me to thrive there and eventually start entrepreneurship on the right foot.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not everybody, it's not the same kind of exit strategy for everyone, right? And even though yours came to a halt, unexpected halt, you were still able to, recover from that. I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday. She's at her 12-year mark. And, one of the things I did encourage her to do was to because she's asking what's next.
Mhm.
She's looking to do 20. She has dreams of being a sergeant major of the Army. But I said to her, what I wish I knew now is what I'm going to tell you. What I wish I knew then is what I'm going to tell you because I know now. I said, start planning your exit now. I said, get plugged in to find veteran events around your area. You don't have to be a veteran to attend. Now you're doing research, right? So she's at that phase where she's asking what's next. So I started telling her about like Mick. Telling her about the veterans events that she can start attending now so that when she gets out, she's not scrambling like so many of us are. So um, one challenge I do hear a lot from veterans struggling in civilian life is like um they don't know their identity, right? So how did you learn to articulate your worth and translate your military skills into business?
That came with a lot of help,
Yeah,
right? I didn't just figure it out myself, and I want to say that to everybody leaving the
yeah,
military. Um, it's important for all veterans, and it's the responsibility of veterans to be able to translate their own skills. And that's something that's not fed to you when you leave.
yeah,
The Transitions Assistance Program, TAP class that everybody has to take when they're about to exit the military is woefully underskilled in preparing veterans for what they do when they leave. And for me, my education in how to do that started with Kevin Horgan, one of the leaders of a local group here called Vetlanta, that
hmm,
sat me down and said, I'm going to teach you inside baseball. That was the first and most caring and loving introduction to education on how to transition that I had received to that point. And he fed me some skills there right across the table. From there, I got introduced to other organizations like 4Block, the Veteran Entrepreneur Training Program, excuse me, the Veteran Transition Training Program that helps teach veterans how to tell their story. I
yeah.
came on as an instructor, teaching others how to do that, skills that I didn't really have myself, but by teaching it, I learned it very well. And even though I had a job, once I started that role, the waves of corporate change washed
Mhm.
over me at Red Hat, and I was separated from Red Hat after about 19 months and had to seek life elsewhere. And using the skills I had been teaching as a volunteer with 4Block, I was able to use that to transition into a new role. So the skills about translating your skills and explaining what you did in the military in civilian terms are things you need to be taught. And for
Yeah.
anyone who doesn't feel they have those skills, they need to seek out those programs that will allow them to very quickly, very easily translate those skills and do it in a way that's compelling to the hiring managers.
That's why mentorship is important. You hear it, in the military. It looks different when we're in the military than when we come out, right? And
Mhm.
it looks a lot different. You'll have people that'll take you under their wings and guide you, which is kind of what I had. But on the civilian side, some people do pay for mentorship, which I'm learning is a thing. But I feel like, we just had two big events here in Atlanta, right? For veterans, Vetlanta, and we did have Vets Fest yesterday. We were just there. And we shouldn't have to pay for that. Like our veteran community, that's one of the things the military brings. We have this special bond that a lot of people don't get. And it's because we're so giving. We know, okay, let me help. Jason needs help. Renee needs help. Let me show you what I did. And I'm speaking towards mentorship. What is your take? Or you can chime in on that piece as well, because I feel like it does look different. And for someone that's newly transitioning, when I first got out, I'm like, I want a mentor, but I didn't know what that looked like when it came to me so easily when I was in a circle, because people they just poured into me without me saying, "Oh, I gotta find a mentor," right? So, what is your take or advice? I would say on that for a newly transitioning soldier.
Got you. It's one of the things that we talked about in 4Block for many years is that there's a spectrum of educational partners that you need to seek out to help you progress your career, right? In 4Block, and this didn't come specifically from 4Block, they didn't create this framework. I saw it on a TED Talk far before that there's three levels of people that you want to find in your progression through your professional corporate career: coaches,
Mm-hmm.
mentors, and sponsors.
Yeah.
Coaches, we had a saying in the military, you'll remember this in the Army. Whenever you try to use a piece of equipment, you're trying to buckle a seat belt, the sergeant would stand over you and say, "It's a 2% rule, private. You got to be 2% smarter, 2%
Yeah.
smarter than that seat belt to use it,
Yeah.
right?" However, 2% rule applies for coaches.
Hmm.
Anyone who is 2% better than you at something that you need to do is an expert.
Yeah.
They don't have to be your friends, but you
Right.
have to have enough respect for you to give you the right answer to your questions. How do you do that? Or how can I do it better?
Yeah.
If I wanted to get better at Minecraft or some other video game, I could ask my child
Yeah.
to teach me, and they can be a coach. As long as
Yeah.
they just care enough about me to tell me the truth, this is how I do it right, and they'll give you the right answer.
Yeah.
Don't need a lot of relationship for that. Mentors, however, should be someone who does have a relationship with you,
Mhm.
someone who is above and beyond where you are in your career, and more importantly, in all aspects of their life, both professional and personal life. There's somewhere where you want to be. There's a saying in this world, you don't take advice from someone you wouldn't want to trade places with.
Right.
So when you find that person, they can become a mentor if you develop a personal relationship with them. If they choose to invest their time in you to help you get better, they choose from some either fatherly, brotherly type of emotion. I
Mhm.
want to help Renee. I want
Yeah.
to make sure she has the best things going for her life and her career. I want to help her be where I am. And they know enough about you that you can ask them the questions, what should I do?
Right.
What should I do? They know enough about you from that personal relationship to say, here's the right answer for what I understand about you, your goals, your challenges. And you have to seek those mentors out. You have to be open and transparent enough to allow people to speak into your life
Yeah.
and know what your concerns, fears, problems are, or you'll never have the kind of personal relationship where someone can properly mentor you. In your corporate career, you'll be assigned mentors. The corporation will say, this is your mentor, and they may not be the type of person you want to be like.
They may not be the right fit.
Right. The
Yeah.
mentor is not a title, it's a level of relationship,
Yeah.
it's a status, not a title. So you develop and foster that mentorship relationship, and that's on you. And those mentors will take an active role in introducing you to sponsors. There are people above you in the corporate world who have planted a garden where they grow people in order to do the big things they want in their careers as a large VP, president of the company, somebody who has a magic wand in their pocket that can make red tape go away and create opportunities for you and put you in places to succeed. That sponsor is looking for the right seeds to grow in their garden, and they care about their garden.
Yeah.
They don't care about you.
Right.
They don't want a relationship with you. They want to know, if I water you, will you grow? Will you
Right.
make my garden look better? And they look to those trusted advisors who are usually at a level in the organization as your mentors will be to recommend those right new bright seeds to plant in their garden. And you don't want to seek out sponsors, but you want to be aware of them and find ways that your mentors can introduce you to them. That's your career progression. Now, I've transitioned, my company, Sales Synergistics, is my go-to-market name for Seagree LLC. My primary focus is in education.
Hmm.
And as you go throughout this world, you're going to find another category of people around you that are going to give you information and knowledge besides coaches. You will have speakers who just convey information, talk to groups and large audiences, similar to what we went to at VetFest. Stand on stage and just tell the crowd, here's what I think. Then you have instructors. Instructors are there to try to make learning happen. Their goal is to make this class that they're sitting in front of learn something specifically, not just share information, not just tell you, not just be a lecturer, right? Or some facilitator. They're there as an instructor to help you learn, right? Teachers you could think of in the civilian world. The higher level are educators that I claim, that I strive to be. An educator is someone who actually looks at what needs to be understood and can create content, training, curriculum, build the programs, understands the methodologies and strategies to learn so that they're creating models of education to really make learning happen. And so they can provide those footprints for people to walk through, provide the classes and the courses. And that's what I do for a living. For the military, we come from a culture of coaching.
Mm-hmm.
For your first job as a private, when you learn something, you know your first job is to be a coach to the next one that comes behind you to
Yeah.
teach those skills. So you're coming from an environment as a military veteran where coaching was a part of your daily life.
Yeah.
Mentorship was something that was essential to the job because every sergeant and lieutenant and captain had a vested personal interest in the growth and development of each individual troop under their command. And you're leaving the civilian world where there is no inherent structure for coaching, mentoring, and sponsorship. There's no true coaching culture where every individual knows what that looks like.
Right.
That your reputation is tied to how well the person you coached can do the job. If the sergeant trains someone and the private can't do the job, then the lieutenant's coming back and saying, "Hey, Sarge,
Right.
what's wrong with your troop? Why
Yeah.
weren't they trained? Why
Yeah.
weren't they coached? Who was watching Airman Snuffy over here?
Yeah.
You know, who was watching him while he did this? Didn't you know he was new? You didn't have anybody watching him?" That's the culture that the military comes from because everybody's individual performance is so important to the overall mission.
Yeah.
You know when you leave, you're walking into a place where what you experienced before, coaches, mentors, sponsors, coaches, instructors, teachers, and educators, those things don't exist to the degree that you remember. At the very least, it's a cost sink that they feel is a necessary evil that they have to do in corporate America, and they don't invest enough time and energy into making sure that every level of management understands those levels and is focused on making sure they develop people. You have to learn how to develop yourself and seek out that help in the ways I just described.
Yes, and that leads me to my next point about investing in yourself, right? Because like you just talked about how it was imperative in the military for our leaders to invest in our success because it would trickle back up, right? It's because it supports the overall mission. And I
Mhm.
think one of the biggest lessons I learned coming out of the military is about investing. I think a lot of us, we get so caught up in discounts, military discounts, all of that, that we don't recognize the value of investing and what that looks like. Like you talked about development, personal development, professional development, all of that's investing in yourself. And I think, like you mentioned, TAP, right? These are the things we're learning once we get out. Like we're OJT, right? We're we're
Mhm.
gonna we're gonna walk this path for you. And this is the stuff that I personally believe should be taught in the top courses, right? You
Mhm.
have what, up to 2 years, I think you can to go through the transition assistance program. I don't know if that's changed. You can start transition like 2 years out, right? And I feel like during that process, that's what should be the basics. Let's cover some of the like the real life things that you're gonna face. And it's not that I think it's just so career focused that it's not touching on the part that we're talking about, empathy. It's not touching on identity shifts. It's not touching on, oh, you're gonna need to invest in yourself. Like we basically had a cookie cutter career, right?
Mhm.
You do this, you get promoted. You do this, you to score 300 on the PT test. You do all these like elements, you earn SARM Audie Murphy or whatever. You knew the steps to take. That's not what it is coming out. So what is your take? What advice would you give, or how would you kind of direct someone when it comes to the investment piece? Because I think many times we have this idea that we should be getting, right? But not giving in any way, whether that's time, whether that's energy, whether that's giving into ourselves too, or giving to other people, because that's also leads to relationships. So speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, there's something to that, and I've had it said from one of my peers. I'm in a leadership program with the George W. Bush Presidential Center called the Stand to Veteran Leadership Program, and one of my peers in that class, Lloyd Knight, who's one of the co-founders of Atlanta, actually, he said that he's noticed, and I agree with him, that there tends to be a sense of entitlement from
Yeah,
some veterans that come
yeah,
out. And that's well founded for a couple of reasons. There's a cultural thing for us now in the world today. There's so much that is just given to us, civilians and veterans alike, that so many things come so easy. There's
right,
so little that we have to work for, and there's so much that is pushed our way as you should do this, go right, go left. You think about
right.
your progression through middle school, high school, you have a guidance counselor, but they tell you you got to take English lit. You got to take this
Yeah.
class, that class. You go to your college and they tell you this is the curriculum that you have to learn if you want this degree. Here's the carrot. You want a degree?
Hmm.
You want the piece of paper? We're going to tell you what you need to learn. We've given you a pathway. And we feel entitled to that sort of guidance when we come out. So that's cultural. Also, for veterans, some of us have done a lot, an awful lot. Some have given more, as they say. Some gave all, but all gave
Hmm.
some, right?
Yeah.
All gave some, and we feel as though if we did the right things, we were good, upstanding citizens, and we spent 5 to 10 years in the military in very adverse conditions. It shouldn't be this hard, and that it should come to us, and we come from that culture where, again, we did have coaches and mentors as part of the culture. We expect that. And so the entitlement is not so much uh, that term has been bandied about
Right,
some sort of,
right.
negative, pejorative, you're an entitled individual.
Yeah.
But it is an expectation from our culture where we've come from a different country. It's as if you went to live in, some nation in South America that doesn't speak your language. You have different cultural expectations of what things should look like. Imagine how I felt when I did a month in India and you got toilets that are just holes in the ground, right?
Hmm.
That's a big surprise, culturally different. So
Yes.
that's what we will feel. And that's the reason why a lot of people don't want to invest.
Yeah.
Investment in this case looks like time and effort. You're going to have to put yourself through school. You're your own guidance counselor now.
Hmm.
So you have to expect that you're going to go and seek the pathway. And the beautiful thing about where we are culturally is that all of that information is right there at your fingertips.
Right.
There is nothing in this world that you cannot learn from YouTube University. You
Hmm.
will find some pathway to get you there. And
Yeah.
there's been an advent of this new thing. What do they call it? AI? Is that what it's called? I forget what that
Yeah.
stands for. Yeah. I heard tell that somewhere you can type in something into a magic box on the screen and it
Yeah.
will spit out tons of resources, any question you ask, and it will give you a lead to what you want to learn. Why
Right.
is this? How do I? And you will be fed tons of stuff to read.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
gonna have to read. You're
We're
gonna
gonna
have to watch
talk.
some
Yeah.
videos and take some notes.
We're gonna talk about that a little bit. But I'm glad you mentioned, and I'm really happy that you kind of explain the entitlement piece the way that you did, right? Because it does have a negative connotation to it, depending on how it's spoken. So yes, like you said, in defense to people like who have lost a lot,
Mhm.
there is I can understand why they would think, okay, I gave so much, why is this so hard, right? That sense of entitlement, and you can kind of empathize with their thought process on that. So here's another thing. So I created a framework, own it framework, right? Own your story and your voice.
Mhm.
Work your gifts, navigate change, invest, and thrive. So I want to talk about the story piece of that, right? So this has been highlighted even more for me this week. Just how important it is to know your story and to be the one to tell your story, right? Because if you don't tell your story, someone's going to create a story about you. And if they put it out, that's the narrative that's out there until you start speaking your own story and using your voice. So, how has knowing and owning your story shaped the way you show up in business and in life? And what would you say to veterans who are still trying to piece their story together after service? So that was a two-part question.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
it's critical because stories are everything.
Yeah.
Stories are the way that all of our cultures for years have passed on their beliefs and identities. Stories are the things that matter to us and the way that we rationalize the world around us and make sense of what it is. And that rationalizing, right, sometimes is us just feeling an emotion and telling ourselves rational lies
Yeah.
about what we feel. Uh, in that way, you need to recognize that your experience, your path to get to where you are is what people want to know when they look at your resume. That's what people want to know when they ask about your background. Tell me about yourself. They
Mm-hmm.
want to hear a story. They don't want to hear a pitch. I I really shudder when I hear entrepreneurs being told to be told an elevator pitch. It's better to come up with a 90-second novel that explains who you are, exactly what you want them to remember you for, and what you did in the past. It's chapter one. Chapter two should be what you're doing now and what your superpower is, right? What it is you need them to know that you can do for them. And chapter three is where you want to go in the future and how that person who you're speaking to in that moment can help you. And
Yeah.
that's going to come through as conversationally and smoothly as you would talk about what you did over the weekend to your best friend.
Yeah.
Should it be polished and professional? Yes. Should it be very well crafted and articulate and sound like a perfect pitch or a commercial?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
Right.
So, two skills. Number one, knowing the story, going back to take a look at your personal resume, and for each of those bullet points, talking out loud to another person about that over and over again, talking to someone who can help you translate that story with all of your, I went to the FOB and worked with the JTAC to conform to the, uh, you know, leaders of the organization. You got to be able to translate that into civilian terms and tell those stories very smoothly and easily. So that every
Yeah.
one of those bullet points, you've got a story to tell, and you can draw
Yeah.
from those and talk about them at any point the same way you would, as easily as you would as your weekend with a good friend. Those are the ways to get your story straight. The only other piece I'll put with that is to get down to the skills, the value in those stories, right? To finish your story of what happened when you got caught, sneaking some contraband on the base and had
Mm-hmm.
to stand before the military tribunal, but you still got your rank back. The lesson I learned from that was be able to
Yeah.
tell why that story matters.
Right. Right.
Be able to tell what makes you better because of that
Yeah.
story, how that story helped to build you, where it fits into your progression to exactly who they want in that role.
Yeah.
Those are the things you need to be able to accomplish in telling that story.
You know, I'm gonna say this. Like I accomplished a lot in the military, and when I got out, I didn't know, I didn't know I didn't think I had a story. Honestly, I've accomplished a lot and I've gone through a lot. I remember when I first got out of the military, I opened up a fitness studio and I struggled because I've never, I'm watching everyone, they have a story of transformation from being overweight to they can show their journey. I struggled with that because, and I remember I said I would sit in my studio and I'm like, I don't have a story because I'm comparing myself to this person that has this big transformation. And I've never experienced being overweight. So that for me, I was like, man, I'll never be able to train a overweight client and all of that. But you have other aspects of your life. And I'm leading to all of this because I believe that our experiences is not just for us. We kind of personalize it because it is personal, but like you said, it's for us to share to bring the next person up because you never know how your story can really help someone else. I mean, literally off of a cliff. Like, you never know how your story can impact another person's life. It doesn't matter what your story is. It doesn't matter if you have a huge transformation because what's small to you may be the biggest thing or the most challenging thing for someone else. So I'm glad that you shared that because we sometimes get to that position where we're trying to compare. apples to oranges or compare ourselves to like, oh man, Jason had this, this whole unique experience and that's why but you just you knew how to package that so that you can educate other people. Yes, I went through this, but this is the lesson that I learned and this is what you should take from it, which is basically what I think you're saying.
Yeah, if I may, I want to say two things. Number one, the last thing you mentioned that I just knew, right? Um, you have to remember, veteran. You have to remember, brand new transitioning
Right.
service member. You're not going to just know.
Yes.
You just came from a place where you had been through the greatest leadership and training academy in the world, the United
Yeah.
States military. And everything that you do know was fed to you from a very well-structured program in
Hmm.
the greatest leadership laboratory in the world to get you to the place where you were. So you were expected as a senior master sergeant in the Air Force to just know. You were expected to just know because you had been invested millions of dollars of training over your 12-year career. You're now at a place where you got to remember you don't know. And I didn't just know.
Yeah.
I didn't inherently know.
Yeah.
I'm not Michael Jordan, right? And the reason why I'm a better coach, Michael Jordan was a terrible coach because he was the absolute best player. There's some things he just knew. There's some things that he was just good at. And I struggled with everything. I had to get it the hard way. I had to make a
Yeah.
lot of mistakes. I just made a mistake today. There
Yeah.
was a call that I was supposed to start, and I didn't have the right technical pathway to start that.
Yeah.
And technical difficulties caused me to have to cancel an event.
Yeah.
Still struggling. Still
Yeah.
didn't finish every bit of learning I needed. So you're going to have to learn. That's number one. Number two, going back to your story about feeling like your personal journey, your story wouldn't be able to resonate with other people. This is one of the things that I think the people who talk about diversity have
Hmm.
missed is that they don't talk about one of the most critical components of meeting people who are not like you.
Yeah.
It's so important that you get to learn the lessons of other people's stories and be able to share those stories with others and know them and understand them. As you interact with people who are not like you,
Yeah.
as you interact with people who have different experiences than you, your job is not just to know your story, but to curate your repository of stories of people from all different walks of life, to make sure that you meet as many people who have had different experiences than you, so that you can collect those stories, understand them, contextualize them, and share them with others. Because sharing other people's stories can change the world. I heard about this one guy who was born a long, long time ago off in the Middle East, dark-skinned brother from a place called Galilee. They said he had skin like bronze clay and hair like lamb's wool. And he lived a really rough life and died a very, very uncomfortable death. But the example of the way that he lived his life and what he did in his 33 years on the earth, people have been telling his story for
Yeah.
thousands of years. And he's made more of an impact on this world than probably any other human being that's been alive in this
Yeah.
world today. I think you might have heard of him. Do you know
Mhm.
them? Have you tried them?
Yeah.
Right? So that's an example
Yeah.
of people telling someone else's story.
Yeah.
For
But you know
huge
what
impact.
yeah, so you know what I think you spoke to this like, we're expected to know. And I like that expectation. I think many of us veterans, I will say that generally, but from my own transition, I expected me to know what to do when I came out, and this is where you go through this OJT process when you get out and you're riding these waves of emotions because like for me, I was like, man, I did so much in the military. Why can't I figure this out?
Yeah.
Right. And that's where we got to meet our veterans. I think the crux of the transition process is literally like taps, but I really feel like that's a program that really needs to get to these parts of the transition process, help them understand that you're going to get here, but I'm going to show you how to get through this part. And it's also how you come out of the challenges, right? Because there are many times, so many of us we can speak to wanting to quit, wanting to just give up, wanting to just throw in the towel, right? But how far will that get you? right? And how
Mhm.
many times have we accomplished missions that we had to pivot? Like, like in the moment, be adaptable, be flexible, so, and be resourceful. And I think that's what we really want to encourage so many of our veterans, because it's mind blowing to me. And maybe because I'm in a space where I know I can get support, or I know how to get support, or I
Mhm.
know who to turn to get support. But it's still mind blowing to me how many of us are still struggling. It is. And that's why I try to talk to so many people. I got another girlfriend, she called me. We retired around the same time, but she has been through so many transitions in that time, right? And then she's like, Renee, I don't know what to do. I don't know what else. And that's why we do what we do, try to educate and try to guide and coach. And this mentorship thing, try to lead other people. So like now I have, like you said, I know Jason's story. Now I have a resource to point you to. I know Mike's story. I have another resource I can point you to. I know about IVMS. Hey, that's another resource for you, right? Mick is coming up. Hey, you probably should show up to that, so all of that is like, that's why we do what we do. We go through the training ourselves. We may not have known where to turn when we started, but we don't gatekeep, right? We're like, you know what, I know someone that can help you, and let's get you the help that you need, because I feel like so many of us isolate and like
Yeah,
nobody's here.
I want to speak to that, right? So going back to the most important thing, there's a culture we come from.
Yeah.
We know that I am counting on the person next to me.
Yes.
We come up in a culture of mutual interdependence. We really, really are counting on the person next to me
Right.
to do their job right. And I want to do my best to be as strong as I can to keep my shield up to protect the person on
Mm-hmm.
my left, right? My shield is to protect my battle brother or sister. So I want to be strong and keep my shield
Mm-hmm.
up high. And for that reason, even outside of the military, for those of you all as transitioning veterans who are not yet plugged in to the military community, if you're not going to the Military Influencer Conference, September 21st to 24th, make sure that you plug in, because your brothers and sisters in arms share that culture to know that if I know where there's a resource, I'm going to pass it on. If
Yeah.
I know where the water is, I'm going to help lead you to it so you can drink. That's what we did in the military. That's what we still do among our veteran community. When I got back here to Atlanta and I wanted to plug in as an entrepreneur, I was not embraced by the Black business community. Just wasn't.
Yeah.
Didn't vibrate at the right frequency. Can't explain it. I'm gonna put it on me. I'm not talking bad about anybody. But I struggled to find those mentors to pick me up and pull me along and get invited into the rooms. The second that I said I'm a veteran, help came from the woodworks.
Yeah.
So many resources, so much support. So you've got to plug in. You've got to be a part of that community to make sure that you really tap in to the
Yeah.
people who know that I got to help my brother and sister in arms.
Yeah. Yeah. And this leads me to my next point. Like, transition isn't about the finding the first job, or it's not about the job that you did in the military, right? It's about building a sustainable, career, life, just path for yourself. So what habits, can you speak to some of the habits, the mindset shifts, or the frameworks that help you to land in business, and thrive? Would you say that you're thriving?
I am thriving. I am thriving. And I will say that the biggest thing that most veterans struggle with when they get out, I love what you said about it's not about what you just did in the military.
Right.
Remember, every transition, every change, even though it looks like a setback, it looks like a loss.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful opportunity for you to reinvent yourself.
Yeah.
The biggest mindset shift is to think about this time of transition as a chance to discover who you really are.
Yeah.
Not Airman Snuffy, not Sergeant or Lieutenant or Captain Jones. You get to be yourself. And
Yeah.
who are you?
Yeah.
Find that story, tell yourself that story.
Yeah.
And if you want to be something else, if you desire to be something you're not, you got a chance to be that.
Yeah.
The first mindset shift in getting out is don't rush.
Yeah.
Perhaps you've made some financial decisions and you've got to get to that paycheck right now.
Yeah.
Maybe the rent's due. Baby's got to eat. I get that. So you do have to go quickly to find that role. But with the time that you have, especially if you start early, taking your TAP class a
Hmm.
year out, reinvent yourself to what you want to be, to where you find the passion. Take your mindset shift towards finding flow, where you're
Right.
not fighting to try to be who you were, where you're going to the path not of least resistance, but most passion, most joy.
Yeah.
Listen to your heart. What do you really want to do and pursue that?
Yeah.
Because your story will resonate best when it's authentic, when it's coming from a deep and very personal place,
Yeah.
and not something you rehearsed that sounds good to other people because you just need some money. So
Right.
find that, tap into that, and take your time to find it. Because the statistics show that most veterans do leave that first job within a year to 18 months.
Yeah.
Because in that time, in that environment, they've got the time to find themselves. And once they do, when they go to the next place, they become the veterans that we tell everybody that veterans are in the corporate world. Stable, happy, hardworking, committed to what they chose because they chose with better intention, with who they really are, and not what they just thought they could do based on what they did in the military. You don't have to be a cop because you were an infantryman. You
Right.
don't. Don't let the sheriff's office suck you into that. You don't have to be
Mhm.
a security guard just because you were a grenadier. You can do something else.
Yeah.
I happen to know a Marine machine gunner that was flying on the back of helicopters is now a PhD instructor at Morehouse School of Business. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
How
that speaks to building relationships and it speaks to us giving back. Like I know when I got out, I didn't have a plan, I didn't have a structure, and someone did mention to me to take my time, not in the most, in a way that I could receive what they were saying. So I ended up taking the hard route because, I just didn't know any better. But in the process, you learn. All of this is your experiences, and which is why it's so important to give back to the community and to give freely. It's important to build relationships. It's important when someone reaches out to you and say, I need help, that you do nurture that. You do help them, you do support them, because if you walk this journey, especially if it hasn't been an easy path for you, there's no reason another veteran should struggle when you have the answers to the test, or you at least know the instructor, that could train you to get the answers right. So, um, yeah, I appreciate, what you're saying too. Like, you said a lot, especially with infantryman. That's like a very good example. Like, you don't have to be a cop when you get out, all of those things. There's so many skills that we have. And that's why part of my own framework is work in your gifts. But it's gonna take you taking time too to kind of, really sit back. And like you said, you may be in a position where you gotta feed the family, you gotta feed the kids. But during that time too, really slow down, because I know I was still on that high when I got out. I just, but I was making mistakes because I didn't have a plan, I didn't have direction, I didn't have guidance. Um, I did, but it wasn't what I was used to. It didn't come in the form that I knew to understand that this is where I'm supposed to be going. So, take it from people who've already gone through the gauntlet. But
correct?
the other thing to that, and I will say that for us who've gone through that process, that hardship per se, I'm just using that word, but who've experienced the challenges, don't make it so hard for the person that's needing the support. Because I think that's another thing too, where
Yeah,
you have a veteran or someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I need help," and we're like, "Oh yeah, I'll help you," but we never really be that resource that they need, right? We make it so challenging for them to really feel comfortable. So it's twofold. We can't always say that veterans don't do this. how are we showing up for them? Right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
There's something to be said for the mindset there, right? Remember where you came from. You
Yes.
came from a place where we all told each other and helped each other. And some of the culture that we get immersed in once we're in the civilian world is very self-serving.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage you as you are brought into this civilian and corporate world to do as much as you can to integrate who you were and those positive aspects of your culture into how you behave
Yeah.
here in the civilian world. Don't just assimilate, as we're told. You need to put down the uniform, stop being military, and be civilians. And civilians are wonderful. They're our advocates. I'm not throwing shade, but the culture of the civilian world is take care of yourself. Make
Mm-hmm.
sure you put yourself first. In your job interviews, that's what they're looking for. What did you do? Not the team did this, the team did that. And if you will continue to embrace that looking out for the team aspect, then you'll be drawn to give back. And the best
Yeah.
way you can give back is that knowledge, is that education. If you really want to get good at something, you want to know something, teach it.
Yeah.
You know it cold after you teach it a few times. Then you know it. Then you can really rely on it because you've taught it enough times that you got it down cold.
Yeah.
So start teaching it to help yourself. And
Yeah.
when you teach it, we have mirror neurons in our brain, mirror neurons that when we see happiness in other people, when we see people doing good,
Mm-hmm.
we can feel that feeling
Yeah.
ourselves. So teach someone what you know. Share your successes, your wins, and your processes. Share how you did it. Even if you got the hookup, yo, this guy told me.
Yeah.
Don't hide that. Don't take that street mentality as I can't tell everybody where my plug is,
Right.
right?
Right.
You want to make sure you share, hey, this is where the water is. That's what we did in the military. This
Yeah.
is the guy you talk to. Don't sit on that
Yeah.
and keep it to yourself. Because when you see someone else being happy, because you gave them knowledge and they succeed, I
Mm-hmm.
promise you'll feel those mirror neurons kick in and you'll feel the same happiness for yourself. You'll feel better about yourself when
Yeah.
you're helping other people. Don't let them make you so much less of who you were. Keep giving back.
Yeah, yeah. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, AI, right? It's reshaping every industry. Yeah. So from your perspective, how can veterans position themselves to lead in this new era of technology?
I will say this. Um, First and foremost, I personally believe that AI and the trajectory that is on is not a net positive for human beings. I don't believe that. But just like everything else in this world, the genie is out of the bottle. We
Hmm.
cannot put this toothpaste back into the tube. It's the world we live in.
Yeah,
And AI is, as you said, the wave of the future.
right.
It's something that we can't escape. And just like automation did in the 90s and 2000s and globalization in the 2010s, we're going to have to embrace it.
Yeah.
AI is not going to take your job, but the person who uses AI will. So, Mr. Brand New Transitioning Veteran, if you weren't allowed to use it because of government regulations while you were in the military, you couldn't go into ChatGPT or use some of these other sites that are not secure, and now you're thrust into a world where you have
Right.
to stand out or blend in. AI is going to be a part of that. So if you're
Yeah.
not playing with AI in some way to start to learn it, if you're not studying it, learning how to train the algorithm, how to train your AI to respond to exactly what you want, and getting your instances to give you better responses to better written prompts so it knows your voice and know
Yeah.
what you're looking for, you're going to be behind. As you go to fix a resume, there's going to come a point where everybody's resume is going to be perfect
Yeah.
because no one's going to even think about transmitting a resume to an employer that hasn't been tweaked by AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to have to catch that wave.
Yeah.
So make sure you do embrace that. And remember that in the mid 2000s, when they pushed all of these students to STEM, making sure you were training in coding,
Mm-hmm.
they're now pushing people to cybersecurity.
Right.
Remember that the education system is lagging behind the needs of the future. So as you study AI or any aspects of technology, Study the future of where it's going. It's all out there on YouTube. It's all out there on Google. Find out what the next generation challenges will be. Because what you're being told to study now is to respond to the deficits, the gaps of today.
Right.
Got so
Right.
many coders now, so many programmers now that they're getting let go from jobs left and right as technology changes around them because
Yeah.
everybody prepared themselves for the
Yeah.
challenges of today in technology and not the challenges of tomorrow.
Right.
Train yourself on the next wave of technology. AI is already here. What's coming next?
Yeah.
Get smart on those things. Prepare yourself to be ready for what's going to come. And it's all out there. I'm not going to let my ignorance show and share what
Yeah.
I've learned and not know for sure. But study that. Once I've got some concrete data on what that is, I'll let you know.
Okay. You touched on this a little bit, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Like, how do you see empathy and AI working together and not against each other?
There's something that's going to be lost in an AI system that's built from a less diverse developer base. So as we get more things that are created by AI, it's important that you get empathy from people who are using it or using whatever product comes from the AI, whether it's a plan or a strategy or some language,
Mhm.
that you get it culturalized contextually by people who are on the ground. You need a diverse spectrum of eyeballs to train AI to give back feedback that incorporates that broader perspective and take whatever outputs come from those tools and apply that real world human empathy to those responses and tweak it. This is good structurally, but you're missing this.
Right.
I like what it's saying, but the way it's saying it needs to be changed to this. And listen to those human beings more than you do to the computer. The
Yeah.
computer listens to what it was fed. That might not be true for who's on the ground at your level where your company or your language is going to meet the market in your local community. So you need that empathy from the real world individuals, the people, the humans that are going to consume it. So that's going to be critical in how we use AI is to make sure you bring those diverse human perspectives into whatever AI feeds you and feed more human, local, relevant perspectives into AI before you trust what it gives you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you could sit down with a veteran right now who feels stuck in their transition, what's one thing you'd want them to know?
Help is there. Help is
Yeah.
out there. Get to it. Um, Also know that there are some obstacles you're going to find. There are a lot of large organizations who, through their copious donor base, have been forced to create a lot of very stringent bureaucracy to manage the way that they distribute their resources. Even though we're telling you there's a lot of help out there, remember you're going to meet red tape. You're
Yeah.
going to unresponsive frontline customer service and admin staff that's going to make it challenging, like going to the DMV to get the help that they said they can provide from some of these large organizations.
Yeah.
Expect that. Thicken your skin for that. Keep at it. Just like when you apply for your military benefits. If you've been out long enough to deal with the VA and their bureaucracy, some of these nonprofits will have the same thing. Also, besides corporate coaches, mentors, and sponsors, you're going to run into another category of individual, and that's the gatekeeper. Gatekeepers exist in the corporate world as well as in the nonprofit world, where you have vet vultures who are out there telling the world all the veterans are broken and hurt and they need help. Airman Snuffy is just so unfit that they need your help. So please give me $100 million to come to my event where I'm perpetuating and shedding light on the challenges of the poor veteran narrative.
Yeah.
And some of those organizations are out there and they don't intend to help you.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't want the problem to go away. They want their corporate donors to give them more money. And based on their charisma, they get a lot of it. So know that there is a whole group of people out there who will help you. However, the individual veterans who have gotten good help, who did go to an organization and a specific person in that organization helped them out, they want to tell you where to go. So
Yeah.
ask the people who you know who have gotten through your struggle. Find the people who have been out for a while and they did get success. Ask them how they did what they did. Find the people who are like you, who started from where you were. Seek out individuals to coach you on where to navigate those resources that are out there. Get to real people, expect challenges, stick with it. Get to real people, expect challenges, and stick with it. Get to real people, expect challenges, and stick with it.
Yeah. You know what? As you were talking, what came to me was that there's such a separation from the military and the veteran community. I think that's why many of us don't transition so well. Because until I became a veteran, I didn't realize there was a community of veterans, right? So I think that's a gap that needs to be filled so that transition is not so rugged for so many of us, right? So maybe we could figure out a way to get the two to merge,
Mhm.
especially at that, the end. Because if you think about it, somebody's retiring, somebody's getting processed out, somebody's leaving the military every day. So we need to fill that gap. That's where we need to build that bridge and say, okay, this is where you come. Because like I said, until I became a veteran, and really it's crazy because I was in Virginia and there's a huge veteran community there, but it wasn't close to my house. I literally had to be plugged into that. So I think if that seed is planted while we're serving, the
Mhm.
transition process, and I'm not talking a tap seed. I'm talking like let's transition you to the veteran side, a kind of like a structure there. I think that would be it would serve so many people, especially moving forward. And you talking about looking forward. Let's figure out the solution for what's coming. Not what's tomorrow, what the issue we have tomorrow. So yeah, that's what came to me because like I said, I didn't know there was a veteran community of
Mhm.
support like this
Mhm.
until I got, to be a part. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful because that too played into my personal and my professional development. It played into the mindset that I have now, right? Which is a lot of undoing. There's like we can go on and on about this because it's even the transition process, it's a process, right? I just feel like we're like you said it is our responsibility to ensure that we're stewarding the roles, stewarding people, like help, making sure we are not gatekeepers, making sure we're not making it difficult for people transitioning to get the support that they need and to really push everything we know on them, guide them and help them. Do you have so before we close, I appreciate you sharing your stories and your insight. And this has been such a powerful conversation about, the real stages that veterans face when they're navigating. So, what's next for you, Mr. Smith?
Well, it's funny that you asked that right after your first part of that question, explaining that, the challenges of veteran transition start before you leave the service.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of organizations working on getting the knowledge to active duty service members, taking their knowledge
Mm-hmm.
into the deployed locations and into the active duty units to teach veterans early, to help veterans prepare for their transition. But me, the next stage in my transition, as I've been working with those veterans through groups like Four Block and Bunker Labs and Vetlanta and numerous other organizations throughout the years, I'm shifting away from focusing on helping the veteran prepare themselves to try to shape the culture of corporate America that they will be going into when they leave the service.
Right.
If you think about it, for all the areas that are going to affect veterans, their military health benefits from the VA,
Mhm.
education, homelessness, and housing, those are all impacted by employment. Employment will give resources for
Mhm.
homelessness and
Yeah.
resources through finances for education and mental health, which will impact mental health and suicide.
Yeah.
And their benefits, of course, will be supplemented by whatever health insurance they get from a stable career. And in order to help more veterans get a stable career, not just get hired into the first role that they're going to leave, but the veterans who are already hired to help shape the culture around them, I'm working to influence the mindset of senior leaders, C-level and board executives in corporate America by educating them on the future of veterans in corporate America, helping them to see the type of veterans who bring the strongest benefit, the strongest value to their organizations by giving them a chance to see better veterans on stage and to get a repository of information. So what I've built, what I've designed to help train corporate leaders are two things working in tandem. Number one, at the Military Influencer Conference on the 23rd, I'll be hosting a panel to talk about the future of veterans in corporate America, where I'll have these experts who are veterans and experts in the corporate world who have done work with veterans over many years to come and share their experiences in a panel. And all the information, knowledge, resources, studies that have been produced to help senior leaders learn more about will be housed on the website that I've built, Future Vet, at futureofveterans.com. Future of Veterans is a place where I'm going to create the number one source for all the information about what veterans do in corporate America to help change the mindset of what veterans can do in corporate America. And I'm building a community of collaborators to bring more articles, to conduct more research, to help actually collaborate on making that knowledge readily available to senior leaders so that we start a thought leadership movement
Mhm.
similar to EOS or Six Sigma, that through curation, creation, connection, and collaboration and consultation, we're going to make sure that we teach these senior leaders what veterans really can do in the workforce when you allow them to take leadership of the teams around them and create cultures that are similar to the ones that we came from so that they can transform their corporate environments to be more productive. And that's going to help not only the veterans who transition in, but the cultures they create will be more positive for the civilians as well. And that all starts on the 23rd of September, where we'll have that panel to get that thought leadership started. And the site will officially hard launch to share this repository of information of research that's already been conducted and starting our process of conducting more research out there in the field with firsthand interviews, contacts with C-level executives to study, learn, and prove what veterans can do in the workforce.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that, and just for anyone who's in that transition space, the Military Influencer Conference is literally the place to be. It can be a little bit much, but you will find something. Something will pique your interest. So connection, all of that. It's a great place to start, even if you're in that phase where you're trying to figure things out. So thank you, Jason, for highlighting that. And for everyone watching, remember, transition isn't the end of your story, it's the next chapter. So now that Beyond the Uniform Transition Talks is officially back, I want to encourage you all to stay tuned for more exclusive episodes featuring voices, stories like Jason's, and strategies to help you thrive beyond your service. Jason, I do want to ask you to let our viewers know how they can connect with you, how they can reach you besides at the Military Influencer Conference. If they want to connect with you, for one-on-one, how can they do so?
All of my information is available on futureofvets.com, futureofvets.com. My contact information is at the bottom, so just check me out there. Stay tuned for that site to go live, and please reach out to me and let me know how you'd like to collaborate on helping to tell a new narrative of veterans in the minds of corporate leaders in America.
So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Jason, for being here. Thank you for sharing, just your knowledge, expertise, everything. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the MIC. I'll be there. And to everyone else, yes, thank you for joining the podcast today. And I look forward to seeing you in the future. More episodes to launch soon. Thank you.